not going to talk very long today, and I'm only going to talk a little bit about the STAR project. I'm really going to talk about what happened behind that, so that it's even more important to where we, as we go forward. I wanted to give you a little bit of a sense of where I'm coming from as the DBC Learning, Teaching and Student Services in this institution. Is the position they call a provost in the university, in the American system, Chief Academic Officer. The way it's structured here is that the Vice Chancellor is the Chief Academic Officer, but this is a role in which, well, you know, my KPIs, if you like, are about, are we going to provide a much more inclusive and effective learning and teaching environment, and then are we then going to be able to deliver programs which are the highest quality, relevant and sustainable in a number of ways. Sustainable in the sense of student demand, sustainable in a sense of a funding stream, so that we can continue to offer them even when we have difficult times, so that we're not putting something up which we're going to have that has a 5-year life, which is not really a way forward. I wanted to give you a bit of a sense of where I'm coming from, and also some of the reasons how I see all of the parts of my portfolio coming together to make the best possible, to give us the best possible chance of student success for every student. Now, we know some students are going to fail, but we should not know that when they start. That should not be clear when they start. It should not be that they were set up for failure at the admission stage, at the enrolment stage, at the preparation stage, at what happened in school, any of those things. It should be that they all start on day one, or certainly in the first semester, with every chance of success. And then it's choices they make, and bad fit or whatever, but it wasn't because we failed. And I think that that's probably at the core of what I'm on about. I do believe, I know that, I think it's, every now and then, an anecdote is a useful sort of thing. I was at, I'll end about this one, I think. When I was at Claremont Primary School in Tasmania and Claremont High School, and I had asthma, eczema, bronchitis, hives, and every known food allergy all through my early childhood, so I took antihistamines. So I slept through primary school, and I got to high school, and I was streamed into, at the age of 12, into a class that would have had me completing school at year 10, leaving at year 10. And then the doctor said, look, this antihistamine doesn't look to be working, why doesn't she stop? So I did, stop taking these 6 little pink drops 4 times a day. And I went from the bottom of the class to the top of the class in about 9 months. And then it was a case of being streamed into, and everybody having this view that this kid was a bit short of a few neurons and it was not going to work. Anyway, one of my teachers, who I spoke to the other day, she's just 83, and you know, she said, well, I think she can do it. And so this is the role of the teacher who believes in you. And she tackled the school principal, who said, look, I think she can get her school board, which is year 10, and if she works very hard, she'll get her matric. But as for university, she really needs to be more realistic. But this teacher, Gwen Philby, tackled it head on. It was her first year of teaching. She was a returning adult student. She was 35 years old, teaching for the first time. So I did my PhD on the impact of marriage and the family, of women returning to study. But it wasn't because of Gwen, it was just because I believed that many of these women didn't have a first chance. And this was not a second chance, this was the only chance, and it was certainly the last chance. But she believed in me, she tackled it. My mother stepped in, which was kind of unusual for my mother, but it was a good time. And she tackled the time with the principal and they said, I think you should give her a go. She's prepared to stay back a year, leave all her peers behind and start high school again, then she should be given that chance. And I did go on, and I did get scholarships, and I did, I wasn't a brilliant student. I did well enough to complete on time in full, which is only 30% of students, but I did that with the help of the Commonwealth Government. Then I got other scholarships, and for the first 25 years of the existence of Claremont High School, I was the only girl with a PhD, and there was only one boy. Just a solid working class high school in the middle of nowhere, and it closed this year after 49 years. It didn't make it to 50. But it's a common story. It's a common story about teachers who believe and teachers who put themselves on the line. So from that day forward, I've done the same for other students. When they have gone and put in there, I'm about to quit notice, I have gone over to the enrolments people and said, I will take it back and we will talk. I will take out their withdrawal and we will talk, and we will do it one day at a time. And so it's a mentoring process. So these are things that, for me, I came from not a wealthy family at all. Nobody at Claremont High School was wealthy, and ours was less than most. But for me, the education is a circuit breaker. It's a poverty circuit breaker, and it is the only way up and out. Unless you are a fabulous basketballer, and you're tall enough for it, and I've obviously failed the height requirement. I've probably failed the gender test as well. Because women's basketball makes 4% of what men's basketball makes. There's a story in that too. So this is the only way out for working class kids, for kids from villages, for kids from minority migrant backgrounds. There is only one way out. Well, you could put your money in Cash Lotto. Yes, you could. It's probably not as reliable, and it won't teach you anything. So I see, for me, we have a moral obligation to provide the best education we possibly can. When I stood up today, I hadn't intended to actually tell you that story about my background, but I kind of think it gives you a sense of what drives me and what means that what makes it that I will never give up. And I pursue those goals, and I keep putting the quality of the teaching and the commitment of the teaching staff and what it is that people are trying to learn, what it is they're studying, and so that they can at the end know stuff and do stuff. And graduate attributes is just knowing stuff and doing stuff. And to a certain extent it's being stuff, which is about being mature and thoughtful and reflective and a good problem solver. But essentially we are trying to take the lottery out of education. And in the past, it was very much throw a lot of stuff at the wall, hope some of it sticks, and hope that some of the bright kids are walking past at the time. But nothing more planned than that. Believe me, not more planned than that. So we have decided over the last couple of years in higher education around the world to become much more purposeful about an education, about what's in it, and what comes out of it, and what are the methods of getting to the end. Because we can't afford that. When I went to university, 7% of girls went to university. That's all in Tasmania, 7%. It's now about 50 of those who go. But increasingly, the trend has turned again. We now have fewer working class kids, and my kids from migrant backgrounds, and kids from African Americans and Latinos, and hopefully not here. That's our goal, to make it not happen, because it's also a bit behind in terms of a lag of trends. That people are staying away. There are still, and again, more African American men in prison than there are in college. That figure was the same 25 years ago. College started to overtake, and now it's gone back again. And others are not even finishing high school. They're not going to prison, but they're not going to college either. Not going to university either. So we have, and Latinos, similar problems. Anybody who's struggling with a cultural difference. Anyone who's struggling with the fact that there are no books at home. There's nobody in the family who went to college. I'm the first in my family who went to university since my great-grandfather who went to Trinity College in Dublin and left Ireland after the famine. So that's it. None of my cousins, not my sisters. So, you know, it shouldn't be like that. I should be one of hundreds of thousands, not one of 2 or 3. And it's got a little better. But you know, there are many, all of the people who serve you, whenever you go anywhere in Fiji, most of them don't have any kind of qualification. So that's a big market for us, getting people who are already employed and got the work ethic to come back and study as adults. So I see we have a moral obligation to lift people out of poverty through education. So I put my cards on the table. And fortunately, that aligns very nicely with where the council's coming from, and the government and every other employer. They want people who can do a really good job, who don't need constant supervision, who can be left to finish something, who can be counted on to start something, who have ideas, who get on well with people, who work well in a team, and who are reliable and who turn up. As what did Woody Allen say? 90% of success is just turning up. I think that's true. If you're here every day, I think about the last year of my university and the last 3 months when I had withdrawn, My parents were going through a very ugly divorce. Is there any pretty divorce? I don't know, I haven't heard about it, but most of them are ugly, and some of them are just a dog's breakfast, and this one wasn't good. And I decided I would give it up. It was too difficult. And I had another person, Bill Mollison, who actually started the first Greens party in the world, and he said, Kelly, you'll come to my office at 4 o'clock every day, and you will tell me what you did yesterday, and you will tell me what you're working on tonight, and what you're going to hand in tomorrow, and we'll do it one day at a time. Like alcoholics, we'll do it one day at a time. And we did. He dragged me across the line. It wasn't my best year, but I didn't fail. And sometimes that personal intervention is what it takes. It's important. So I see education as also creating a more civil society, a more democratic society. Hopefully, by the time we turn 50, we'll be 2 years into democracy in Fiji. That'd be nice. That's the plan. I'm just speaking from the man. He said it, 2014. Let's work towards that. Let's have a great body of educated people who are ready to take those roles and play that part in a civil society and a democracy. For me, one of the other great issues associated with health, with education, is its benefits for health. We have very clear knowledge now of the educated people live longer and they live healthier lives longer. They have better health for longer. Physical health, mental health. If you want to do education for no other reason, you would do it, but to take some stress off your healthcare system. And any kind of benefits that you might accrue to people as they age, or any ways, any safety net you have to build. It's legion, whether you're talking about blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, smoking, over-smoking, drinking, drug taking, depression, anxiety, all of these things are appreciably, significantly better in educated people. And it's linear. Got a high school degree, better off than a high school diploma, better off than a person who left at the year of 8 and 7. Or what do you call it? Say Form 4 or Form 5. You got a degree, even better. A graduate degree, even better. It's a great investment. Egypt did it quite a while ago. Educated women brought the birth rate down, brought the economy up. Very significant improvements can come from investment in education. So, as you know, USP's role in training teachers and lawyers and thinkers and scientists and certainly environmental scientists these days, people who can, accountants and people who can run businesses, who can start businesses. We know that that's the role of USP. And it was made very clear to me when I did a brief presentation, 9.5 minutes, on STAR Council last week, that they are very clear. They said, I'm really glad to hear people talking about the core business of a university. The learning and the teaching, making both of them reach their highest potential. Whether we like it or not, this is not a research institution with a bit of teaching on the side. It is a teaching institution with a research component that must relate to that learning and teaching. Applied research about learning and teaching, and that is one of the things that actually distinguished our BIMS application. Some research, some published research on how we learn better in certain environments with certain technologies. But that's not the only research this institution needs to do, but it does need to add value to the community and the society and the region in exactly the same way that the learning and teaching does. We are not some basic research institution where people come to, pursue their dream in the quiet of their own laboratory and never really have to report to anybody. Just keep getting an NSF or an NIH grant and just keep the money rolling in and I'll keep the papers churning out and you actually want me to show how that affects society? Oh, not my business. That's your job. Well, no, at USP it's our job to show how all the research we do adds value to the whole community in every way. And that community I see is the whole Pacific region, increasingly a little bit of the North Pacific as well. So, the research, I'm unashamedly of the view that research needs to be meet all of those criteria as the same as the learning and teaching. Quality, relevance, and sustainability. And we must invest in it to the extent that it can deliver for this whole region and all of the people who depend so much on it. I suppose one of the things that struck me in my first 3 months here, and I've been to a lot of events and a lot of different things, is how many proud USP graduates there are from every country in the region, and some of them are not in the 12 member nations, from Papua New Guinea and others, who are graduates from here, who are very proud of that. So what I've been said about tapping that wellspring of goodwill for development of facilities here, like the postgraduate library in business, but also for scholarships for kids who will not make it unless somebody puts that extra money in. So good to great requires that everybody contribute in a way that will move us forward. And I just wanted to talk a little bit now, in terms of STAR, you've all heard that, and I ask that not only do you read the annual plan and the strategic plan, but that you read the PowerPoint that I've sent around. If you haven't got a copy, I can get that for you. And I will be presenting or preparing in the next month or so a general paper on why we're doing STAR and why it matters and why and your part in it. So you can touch those to your heart, read those, put them wherever you have time to read. Might be on the bus, might be anywhere. But take it with you. And it is an obligation of everybody who works here to get their head around the annual plan and ask how does this affect what I do every day. So I'm just going to talk a little bit before I wrap up and we go to morning tea and things. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the areas that I have in my portfolio, and they include campus life, student administrative support services, College of Foundation Studies, and the Centre for Flexible and Distance Learning. And those are all, I see those, I mean you might say, oh, what's all that got to do with learning and teaching? But in fact they're central. And they relate very much around three big issues that we're seeking external funding from at this very moment, in this very week. It probably won't come through till about May next year. But those areas are the bridging programs, the foundation studies, how can we make sure that students are as well prepared as they can be coming in? And so that is going to be looking at how do we dovetail with the high schools, how does our Form 7 work with our College of Foundation Studies. It already runs very well, but we can do a whole lot better, and I'm looking forward to working with Emily on that and CFS. But it's critical. We know, we've heard from our stakeholders that many students are not well prepared. Back then in the 1970s, 30% of students finished on time in full. Did a 3-year degree in 3 years. 30% finished one day, 30% never finished. And it's almost like one of those great immutable facts. It's not that different now. In America, the average student finishes, 57% of students finish in 6 years. So is that pretty close to 66%? It's just crazy that it's so similar. And some places have got it up to 75 and 80% with serious intervention, not just selectivity, not just taking the best and the brightest, but preparation. Experience, which we know is also critical. Students come, I don't know, but it is a good idea for you all to go back to thinking, getting back into the feelings of your first day on your first campus. I mean, if the library can bring you out in a sweat, then you're not normal. That's what I can say. I mean, navigating the library in those days, and then once you get into graduate school or postgraduate school, and back in those days, I'm really old, we had punch rooms. We had cards with little punchy things in them. And of course, they were affected by humidity. I don't know how that ever worked in Fiji, but you'd go and put in this box of cards, and the computer punch room used to bring you out in sweat. Everything, because it was all adaptation and adjustment. You feel inferior walking in. So you need people to help you feel this is normal. We can navigate this, finding the library, finding the ATM, finding food, finding out a person who can replace the toilet paper in the dorms. All of those things it just makes people focus on the study and getting to know other people, which is how they're going to succeed. They're going to succeed to the extent that they have a support network and to the extent that they can focus on their work. They can get their books, they're not paying an arm and a leg. When people the year before are sitting there with books that cost them $90, just getting older on the shelf. So I'm working with Glenn on this, we're going to have sometime in the before the end of the year, a sale of books from last year to this year. Now that means that the lecturers need not to be very quixotic or capricious or just even unfair about changing a book every year. So we need to make a commitment to the same textbook for a couple of years. So that last year's students can get value out of their book, this year's students can get it more cheaply, and that's another source of anxiety gone. So there's a lot of stuff in there in the first year experience. A lot of it's about having fun. If you're not having fun at college or university, you might as well give it away. Because it's too hard if you're not having fun. If you don't meet nice people and get along with people and take time out to, as Stephen Covey would say, sharpen the saw, and that's the image there is of people who are chopping, timber getters who are slicing up wood, slicing up big logs, and they just get so into it they forget that the saw has gone completely blunt, and that they now are taking 5 times as long to get one, just a tiny little bit of progress. So they have to stop. And when you're talking about sharpening the saw, you're talking about an individual going for a run, going down playing squash, going for a walk, going and sitting with students up in the food court, whatever, watching TV, something that takes you away and refreshes your capacity to get back into more study and more work. So we've got external funding that we've got our eyes on for the first year experience as well. We know that it's a huge predictor of success. People who make it through first year have a much higher chance of finishing, not just because they're still there, but because they're in a survival group, obviously, but they've learned a lot along the way. And they know what it's going to take to get there. And they have support and they have commitment from other people. And the third one that we're seeking external funding on is employability, graduate employability. And that goes back to the graduate attributes, which then have to be supported by the learning outcomes in every course, in every class, in every year, in every program, in every degree program. They need to build the knowledge that we want people to have, the students to have, graduates to have, the skills, the personal attributes, whether it's computer skills or personal maturity, problem solving, initiative, extreme proficiency in written and oral English, numeracy, all of those things. We won't get there unless it's built into every course along the way, systematically, one on the other. I've said this before in other settings, but we've all done courses that have a different unit number, but the content under that unit number is 2/3 the same as something you did a year or 2 years earlier. And that's partly because the people here don't talk to each other about what they're offering. There are no consequences for duplication and redundancy. It just goes on. It's, really what happens in a classroom, to a certain extent, is one of the last great cottage industries. You close those doors and the academic staff member does what they think they would like to do. And if you think that isn't the case, you need to read some of the letters I get from the students who say that this person didn't teach to the curriculum. We haven't been sued yet because I'm not teaching to the handbook, but we will, because it's happened everywhere else. This person, they didn't turn up. They turned up late, they left early, they got us to read stuff, they did entirely student-driven work, which is wonderful if there's preparation, but otherwise it's just sharing opinions and inadequate information. So they basically got out of doing any lessons, any class preparation, and the students sometimes did the assessment, and that's brilliant too, if properly done and followed up and against some criteria. So we're looking at the employability from, that is the end, that's keeping the end in mind, and through that we need to work from before they get here, through the whole 3 years, particularly undergraduate and graduate level as well, postgraduate level as well. But so that every course it's called curriculum mapping. It's not rocket science, but it is important, and it doesn't leave so much to chance. So with that, I'm going to leave it and ask you to ask questions or comment or reflections on any aspect of. I particularly did not give you one very, very heavy speech because there's going to be. You've got more than enough information coming at you over the next 2 days. I thank you for being here and for agreeing to give up marking time with students, whatever, to be here, because this is your business. And this STAR project is not extra work, it is the work. Every person who signs up for academia signs up to learn and to teach. and to continue to learn. It's quite concerning to me when I see external reviewers say that the references that are here for this program are 15 years old. And they say, but it's Jane Austen. She died a long time ago. So how can there be new stuff? Well, of course, there are tons of people working on Jane Austen, and there's new stuff coming out, new reflections all the time. And new thoughts and different ways of seeing old stuff. So go back to Peter Berger and Ways of Seeing. It's important. It's a brilliant book on perception and the world through many eyes. And the other book that I would recommend to you, before I go to questions and comments, is one I referred to a minute ago, one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. I recommend this book wherever I go. It's only sold 30 million, so you won't be in the minority. At least 30 million, probably way more than that now, because it's out there on, you know, tapes and DVDs and all that sort of stuff. You can, and on the Kindle and the other electronic books. It's Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, Stephen Covey was a researcher, and he didn't just sit there and think, well, what do I think? And the key things to do, he actually studied hundreds and hundreds of people who were seen to be the most effective in their fields and said, well, what are the things they do as a regular thing? So I recommend you read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Very readable, very useful. Every student, every academic should have a go at it. And there are just a couple that still guide my life since the first time I read it. And one of them is Start with the End in Mind. And one of the others is First Things First. You need to actually do the big things first. And the smaller things, to a certain extent, to take care of themselves. There are a range of others in there, but those are very important. So I recommend those to you, and ask you, are there any comments and questions before we go and have the first hydration? Questions, comments, anybody? Thoughts? Personal stories. Yes. Can you keep it brief, please, Professor Nelson? No, I'm asking you to do that because there are other people here. Is there anybody else who wants to speak as well? So that I know how long you're going for.
Thank you very much, Susan. You can't say how pleased I am to have heard something today, which I think many of us who were here at last year, the Vice Chancellor's Forum, were calling for. The statement which you made, which is that the core function of this university is teaching, and that we need to have research, and yes, research which should be relevant to the needs of the region and so on, but the teaching and learning is what we should be focused on. Now, at the last VC's forum, when we discussed many of these issues, it wasn't focused on teaching and learning, but we got a huge battering, from management about how staff were going to be assessed on how many publications they had in 5-star journals, etc., etc. And I remember, I think Randy and I, we spoke and we said, well, hold on. The biggest contribution we make to this region and what we paid for by our governments, by the parents and by the students is the quality of our teaching to make sure that they get relevant knowledge, and when they leave here, they're able to get jobs. So I'm very glad to hear you say what you just said today, and thank you for saying that. The second point that I'd like to make.
And it's going to be short because there are
it will be short. Yes. One of the unfortunate things that happens when university management are perpetually in contact with the government representatives and council, people in institutions and so on, they tend to forget the big fundamental intellectual and academic and philosophical functions of universities, which is to be also producing critical thinkers who challenge what's going on out there, sometimes even if it makes governments uncomfortable. Now you will know that we have just gone through this great Diwali, Festival of Light, and you'll have seen all our leaders send messages everywhere. It's a victory of light over darkness, truth over ignorance. Truth over ignorance. And yet, hardly anybody, any of these leaders have ever talked about the fact that in the region, there's a darkness which comes in place because of media censorship, which stops academics from freely expressing their views, which stops truth and light reaching out to our people. And I believe that it's also incumbent upon us in the universities to provide this greater critical thinking that our people in the region need, even if sometimes it makes governments uncomfortable. Because if you don't hold our governments to account, then you are failing in your duties to the responsibility to the communities who pay the taxes that fund us.
I absolutely agree.
And one last point, which is...
No. Can you hand the mic to someone else? Please, Wadden. Thank you. I totally agree with you though. Critical thinking is one of the top graduate attributes, and I did not say it idly when I said that when democracy comes, and it will, and it must, and the more educated people there are in the community, the faster it becomes. Then they will be ready. But until then, they have to sometimes be careful about what they say, but not in this place. This is actually a bastion of free thinking in this institution, and I think that's a great triumph for USP, because we're a regional institution, not a Fiji institution, and that helps people who work here travel to and from Australia and New Zealand and keep the flame alive. So I agree with you completely. Yes, you please do.
Do you mind if I respond to you a little bit? Can you hear me? On that issue of research, it worries me a little that you seem to put research and learning and teaching into two different boxes, and that you made them a choice. It's an either-or. My belief very strongly, and I'll say something about this later, is that if you think that way, you're likely not to be a very good learning and teaching institution. I would argue very strongly this for two reasons. One, students want to come to a university of which they're proud, not only when they're students, but throughout their lives. And sadly, like it or not, one of the things that really determines the prestige of the university is its research performance. And it is important, for me it's fundamentally important, that a university has a strong research prestige. And the more you try to reach out to disadvantaged students, I think the more important that is. So that is one issue. I think we've got to give students the gift of a degree of qualification from an institution that they are really proud of. But the other thing is this. I always said to my staff, look, what we have to do is excite our students. We really have to make learning attractive, enjoyable, excitable, particularly for those who are disadvantaged, who are not sure that they're really in the right place when they come to university. And it does seem to me that one of the great excitements for an academic is scholarship and research. If you're excited by your work, you will excite your students. But, absolutely right, the last thing I think a university should do is force all of its staff down the research road and create a cadre of people who are reluctantly doing research. So I think what's really important is to get the right balance between your learning and teaching strategy and your research strategy. I'll say a little bit more about that later, but I do think it's very dangerous to put these two things in separate boxes and treat them as ideals. Sorry, forgive the sermon.
Thank you. I just think that just taking up that point, those of you who have been following the process of the trajectory of this star, you will know that in fact we have Group 5, is it, Graham? Group 5 is research across the curriculum, because I also take the view that we are better teachers if we do some research. It may be research on research. It may be research on teaching. It may be research on some aspect of why students are failing. It doesn't have to be in the discipline. But if you are actually generating new knowledge, you are developing a critical thinking, you're developing problem solving, you're developing the capacity to say, that is not the right conclusion from those data. And you can't do that unless you have exposure research. So we're looking at students having that at every level, first year, second year, third year, not just in third year and hoping that they'll then be excited by the research or your work. So I think that I totally agree. Our job is to excite and sustain that excitement. But it's not only us. We should not work harder than our students for their success. I know that sounds cruel, but I've said it to so many students. I'm not going to work harder than you do for you to succeed. You have a dog in this fight. It is your career we're talking about. Nobody cares about your career more than you do, not your boss, not your mother, nobody. So you're going to have to work at it, but we can pave the way. And so research for me is very much about, and academic staff doing research is about practicing what they preach, as much as anything. And the excitement and energising factor. And just having a more interesting life. Because when you're doing both, it's more interesting. And you're more interesting. And the students know that you do other stuff outside, and they're sometimes quite surprised. And they think, tell me more about that. So they get energised and ready to go. One last comment. And here is, mine. Oh, you got one. You got it. Great.
Thanks, SusanKelly. It is very good to hear that we're talking about applied research and oriented to our learning and teaching. Love to do that. I bet most academics would want to do that. But academics have their own career path. And if you look at that, I mean, if you don't have publications in ranked journals, they don't look at you. And that sort of takes us away. And I say, okay, right, teaching and learning is, or learning and teaching is now secondary. When I have to progress in my career path, I have to go and collect some data from a data bank, you know, Bloomberg or whatever, and publish it in American economics and financial journals. Otherwise, I'm not going anywhere. So I think you're changing a lot of things in this institute. If you can change the way academic staffs are progressed, promoted, and remunerated, I think we'll be there.
Well, yes, I think, and you raised a very good point about the recognition and remuneration around the multiple KPIs, if you like. The key result areas of teaching, of being up to date with your field, good curriculum, well engaged with the students as well as research. And we are looking at that, and we have to be much more systematic and reward the very things that we say are important, otherwise it won't happen. But it is the case, and you know that when a place like the University of Southern California is a good example, about 25, 30 years ago it was nothing. It didn't even have a really good football team, it has both of those now, but it had nothing. It's right there in downtown LA. They made a decision they were not going to go out of a very, very poor area to a rich area, as UCLA had done, into Westwood in a gorgeous environment. They decided they would stay here and build the inner city. And through Stephen Sample, who's been the most remarkable, unbelievable president, vice chancellor type person, wrote a book called The Contrarian Leader. So have a look at that, that's a lot of fun. Somebody who's doing things very differently. But he took that place from nothing to up there in the top 20 or 30 in the country by a combination of learning and teaching, student services, campus life, the quality of the facilities, places for people to go, proper admissions procedures, you know, bringing all sorts of people to campus, but research. And he went out and he made some very tough decisions. He brought in researchers who were getting paid 3 times what a person alongside them was getting. Same title, and said, but you're going to have to earn your keep. But so it's a private university, he had a lot of money. He built the money from, I don't know, like a $100 million investment to $3 billion in about 15 to 20 years. So it takes sometimes a leader like that in an environment. It's not the same. The University of Southern California is not situated where we are. But it certainly made some choices. And those students who are now graduates of USC, and one of them is Governor Schwarzenegger, was not proud of his university when he went there. Anyone could get in. You just had to walk past and they'd take you. And now it's very hard to get in because of the pride factor. Because people say, well, University of Southern California, it's got this amazing football team. But which is all part of it in America. Galvanizing of people, the pride thing, the alumni thing. So we're not the same, I get that. But there are some things we can learn on how to get there. But you're absolutely right, we must define and then reward those things that we want and make it easier for those people who are good at it and to do more of it, but not to neglect their teaching. Because there are a lot of researchers who think if I can just buy my way out of every course, I'll be happy. If I can just get, the capacity not to teach, I'll be happy. I heard people complaining about that 25 to 30 years ago. And it's not different in many places. They think that teaching is what you just have to do to get your pay, so that you can do the research, which is what you really want to do. Well, we've got to get there. So one last comment up the back before we go for tea and coffee and carbohydrate.
One very quick question,
Yes.
Susan. We're back to exams very soon.
Yes.
And after that, people will be asked what we do with the exam scripts.
Yes.
And the usual answer is we burn them.
Yes.
Before
or after we mark?
After mark.
I'll ask you about that. We're making progress.
What's your personal view? Is there any committee looking at that amount of work that the students put in for the examinations?
Well, absolutely, yes. Under, where is it? It's under number 8.
What do they do with the exam? We continue burning them?
No, we're going to actually look at how much they have to actually do. We are looking very closely at what is the student workload, how much should they do in each course, so there's a comparability between, as much as possible, between science courses and English courses and those sorts of things. But in terms of, well, I'm not sure whether you're saying we should digitise them or shred them or something, or make them into compost, but the thing is, no getting past, and that students do need to, one person with that name and that address needs to sit in a classroom or in an exam room and do something of their own out of their own brain. Because all sorts of other methods, in other ways, have been found to be faulty until you get quite sophisticated online assessment where it can only be you, and you've got all sorts of ways of doing that. So, but in the end, they're going to have to show what they can do, and we're going to have to assess it. What we do with the paper afterwards is entirely something up to our consciousness of the environment.
Well, for the last 40 or so years, we've burned them.
Well, I would ask that we not do any more burning, because I thought Monday night was burning night in Fiji until I went out on Tuesday night, and Wednesday, and Thursday, and now we have huge child asthma as a result of this habit of burning stuff. But I do understand the rubbish isn't being removed, and it's you know, you're trading one evil for another.
Well,
but we don't want to do any more burning.
What is your experience in other universities? Isn't that a potential for feedback?
Yes. Yes. Typically, people don't put feedback on an exam. They put feedback on their progressive assessment during the year. And that's another thing. We have to make sure that gets back to the students early enough for it to make a difference. If you've got 6 bits of work and you don't get your first feedback until you put in number 4, it's useless. And that's common. It's extremely common. I don't actually ask too much feedback on exams because I get what you're saying, because you're marking hundreds of them. You're marking hundreds of them. Unfortunately, it's a do or die on the exam, but the feedback comes earlier in the semester when it can make a difference. But yeah, we are supposed to keep exam scripts for 7 years. I know that Conai has probably 7 people's exam scripts in her room. She has decided you can furnish your room with your office with exam scripts, and you can't get in the door. So we've got to solve that problem. We need to have a big burner, don't we?
Can we ask one of the committees to look at it?
We will have a committee looking at Conai's office. Is that what you mean? No. All right, well, we won't. We just have a couple of people that can get in the door. All right, we will do that. Last one up the back. One, then we really have to. Can you take the mic, please?
If you're teaching 3 courses in a semester,
Yes.
what time do you expect us to do research? And can you give us a vertical to do research?
Well, see, I might say something revolutionary here, but it depends on what those courses are. If those courses are, if the 3 courses is 3 to 4 hours of class contact for you a week, in other words, you're doing 10 or 11, then there's time for research. If you're doing 15 or 16, there's still time for research. It's, there's also, we pay salaries to academics, and it's expected through time immemorial that academics will, one of the trades they get for not having to clock in and not having to be here on Friday, which may or may not change if we get a truckload of new students, but nevertheless, is that they might work Saturday. And that you find time to do what you love and what you want to do. We all do that. I mean, I'm just like lots of people. I did my PhD part-time while working full-time and being a new stepmother and all that sort of stuff. It's what we do. I mean, nobody drafts somebody into being an academic staff member. It's a good life. I mean, it's prestigious, it pays better than most other areas, it's a place you can recognise, have your talents recognised, and you can progress through the trade, and you've got international currency, and you get some travel opportunities, and there's great benefits here at USB in terms of the superannuation and stuff. I know that there are problems, but this is one of the cushiest jobs. These people in this room are the most educated and advantaged people in this region, and people like them. There's no getting away from that. I think unless you're teaching 16 to 20 hours a week, and then I'd say, well, are they all different or are they repeats? You know, are you overseeing technicians doing stuff, or are you actually there engaging all day, every day? We are looking at the workload issue though, but it's there to be done. That is not a humongous workload. Teachers in schools are teaching 35 and 40 hours a week. And they mark on weekends, and they put their own money in for materials. It's, you know, think about the life of a teacher in a school. It's very, very much harder than here.
No, I think some of us are not that highly paid. And you can't run away from students if you're teaching face-to-face. So we really have to think about that seriously.
No, I agree. And we need to make sure online learning and face-to-face teaching are treated absolutely equally in terms of workload. Because one of them is harder in one way and the other one's harder in another way. But I've not seen any evidence that says that one should be given priority over the other in terms of workload. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. I think it's been a fruitful discussion. And after this, then our Professor Sir Adrian Webb will do his thing. Or more of it. Because he's already given us a preview. Thank you very much.